Hi, everybody. I'm Rebecca Guanson with KCIT, and I'm here with our volunteer spotlight. Today, I will be talking to Ann Paris. Hello, Ann.
Hi.
Ann, I'd like to just jump right into the questions and ask you to tell us a little bit about yourself and your background.
Sure, I'd be happy to. So I'm a registered nurse. I started working in critical care areas. So I've worked in the emergency room, burn center unit, ICUs, and tiny little hospitals and great big university hospitals. And I did that for about 14 years. And then I decided I wanted to go to law school. So I went to Temple's night school and graduated after 4 years and have been working in hospital settings in patient safety, risk management, and general counsel roles ever since. I retired about 3 years ago from a general counsel position at a healthcare system in upstate Pennsylvania. And now I'm doing some consulting work. I've done 6 months of consulting up at a hospital in Brooklyn, New York, and sort of waiting for my next assignment, but trying to figure out retirement. It's not quite what I planned with COVID derailing all of our plans, but it is what it is. So I'm learning how to slow down a little bit and take a deep breath.
Yeah, well, your experience and your vast knowledge is absolutely amazing. So, what brought you to KCIT? How did you hear about KCIT and what made you decide to become a volunteer?
So I spent most of my adult life in the Philly area. And when I moved to upstate Pennsylvania for that job, I knew I wanted to come back to Bucks County. Get my cat out of the way here. And I had been familiar with NOVA from my work at hospitals in Bucks County prior to leaving the area. So when I came back, I started doing volunteer work for NOVA, working as a hotline volunteer and doing ER accompaniments. And I'd never heard of KCIT before, but started hearing about them as I was doing work for NOVA, and we were getting some education sessions. And I thought that sounded like a really good program and something I'd like to be involved in. Certainly working in a hospital setting, and especially in the ER, dealt with a lot of people in acute trauma situations, and was familiar with dealing with them, but thought I could take some of my experience of dealing with people in crisis and build on that through KCIT and the training that they offer. And it just sounded like a really interesting thing to get involved in. And based on what I've done all my whole life, I've helped people. And this was another way for me to help people in the community.
Mm-hmm. Well, we really appreciate your presence, that's for sure. If you think about your work with KCIT, are there any moments that stand out in your mind that you would like to share?
So I think I've been on, I guess, 3 deployments now. And the first one that I was on was pre-COVID. It was actually the month before everything locked down. And it was in person. And then the ones since then have all been remote, via Zoom kind of thing. And I think what's really impressed me about KCIT is their ability to change with the circumstances. Obviously, an in-person meeting is preferred, but with COVID, you just can't do it. So KCIT has really sort of, has been very nimble and adaptable to whatever circumstances it is. I think it's a very important service that they provide, and we've had to find a way to do it in sort of a less than optimal way. And one of the other thing that's really impressed me about KCIT is they constantly want to do better. So after each deployment, we sort of have a debriefing where we talk about what could have been done better, what obstacles were there, what challenges were there, and it's a way of sort of doing process improvement and identifying what can be better the next time. We had one situation where some of the individuals involved were foreign speaking, and we had to get an interpreter, a trained interpreter involved, and that created some challenges because there were appropriately pauses as the interpreter was doing her thing, and it sort of disrupted the flow that I've seen happen in the other deployments. But you got to roll with it. If you need to have an interpreter, you need to have an interpreter. So that's a way, I was happy afterwards we all had the opportunity to talk about that and KCIT to sort of brainstorm about, okay, if we have another situation with an interpreter, which we probably will have, how can we make it flow better? How can we optimize the impact on the individuals involved?
And I think that speaks to the commitment of our volunteers too, to be willing to give feedback and to have these conversations, these deeper conversations around process. One question I always ask people is, what would you say to the question, why KCIT? Why take a training? Why become trauma informed?
I think that it's a way of serving the community. I know when I stopped working full-time, I've worked in helping professions my entire life. I wanted to find a way to give back. And KCIT and NOVA volunteering were one way to do it. I also think that you can use the information that you glean and you gain from not just the training, but also from the deployments. You can use that in your personal life, and you can use it to help yourself deal with issues. A number of years ago, I had a situation that I would have loved to have had some of the KCIT tools, to find my way through. I was kind of, going by a seat of my pants to try to figure out how to manage things, and it would have been very helpful to have that. So I think both from a standpoint of helping your fellow man to deal with very difficult times in their lives, as well as getting tools for you to help deal with situations should they come up in their lives.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. And thank you so much for spending time with me this afternoon. And I look forward to seeing you again.
Thanks, Rebecca. Appreciate it. Thanks for all the KCIT does and the support they provide to people in Pennsylvania.